Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. It's Theresa here, and today I'm going to dive into March of 2020. And so for us in North Carolina, in the United States, COVID really began affecting our state in the month of March. It's when we officially went on lockdown in that year. And so I'm going to try to tackle this as a monthly spread. I had about 15 photos from that whole month, and I think that's understandable. We sort of shifted gears and all sort of went into a little bit of hibernation, sort of unsure about a lot of things at that time. And what I've done for product choice here is I went into my Studio Calico kits and pulled some photos that sort of represented a little bit of calm for me. And so you'll see the sort of peach blush colored background cards along with this mint color. And that's sort of what drew me to these products and how I combined them together. My Studio Calico kits, I tend to collect them and then I break them apart. And when I'm looking for journaling cards, so when I'm pulling a product to use for a layout, starting with the journal cards, I pull colors from the photos itself. And this, the little 3x4 floral card that you see on the right hand corner, that was sort of my jumping off point for this page. That set sort of the tone and set the color palette. And so everything that I pull in is going to have those colors. It's going to have mint. It's going to have a little bit of that peach blush color. And there's a little bit of mustard as well. And then the title card has a little pop of red, which is kind of a nice surprise as well. And so I'm just going to start here with the title card. And one of the things that I wanted to say about this layout and about documenting this time period, I've had almost 2 years to think about how I want to document the year of 2020. And especially once lockdown hit for us. And there's first and foremost, there's no right or wrong way to document it. But one of the things that I've kept coming back to over and over again is that when I look back on these pages throughout the years, I want to look at these pages and feel good about the journey that we took. And I want to be able to look at these pages and not fall apart. And there's a variety of different reasons, but the product choices that I've used here are specifically to help me focus on what was good in this time. And what I'm going to do here is pull together a whole story of what we did that was good. There will always be, I hope I can explain this well. You'll always be able to look back in the history books and in newspaper articles at statistics and numbers and news headlines. That's what the newspapers are for. And for me, this is not a newspaper. My scrapbook layouts are not a newspaper. And I don't judge or criticize anyone at all who puts statistics into their into their scrapbook albums, especially if that's something that fascinates you and something that doesn't cause you anxiety. I think that's great. Put that into your albums. For me personally, those sort of things overwhelm me a little bit, and they increase my anxiety, and that's not what I want to feel when I come back to these albums. The statistics are always going to be there. They're not going to change no matter how we scrapbook that time period in our life. But what this is for me personally, and I know that some folks can probably relate to this, what this album is for me is a documentation of how we got through and the things that we did to cope, to survive, to find laughter, to find joy, to try to keep from crying, and how well we did that. And so the product choices that I made here are intentional for that. If you are looking specifically for COVID-themed products, I do have Tracy Reed published a fantastic blog post that references a bunch of resources to find specific products that you can use to document more of to do a more themed layout if that's something that you're looking for. And so I'll be sure to link that below. I will also link that in my blog posts, of course, at theresamoxley.com. So that if that's what you're looking for, you can find some resources that way. But it is possible to document this period of time using everyday products. And that's exactly what I chose to do here. And I was very intentional about that product choice. And so you can see a little of what I'm doing here. I had these rectangular label stamps from Ali Edwards. And so I'm going to use those around on some of the photos and just create a little label with my journaling and a little word strip on top and a little puffy sticker or something like that. And so you can see the photo of our cat Zoe and how I did that little label just going off the edge there and a little blue heart. And then the photo of myself and Alan, that's actually a photo template from Paisley Press. And I've used that photo template a lot. I'll be sure to link it below as well. And then I added a little chipboard piece just across the bottom to sort of tie those photos together. And then, of course, at the bottom left-hand corner, you can see the photo of Natalie. She's wearing these adorable rainbow glasses and eating this giant chocolate chip muffin. And so for my journaling, that's what I highlighted, that we wore rainbow glasses and we ate big giant chocolate chip muffins, because that's one of the things that we did. And even though it was just a moment in time, a little snapshot, that is one of the things that I can look back on, that we can look back on and smile about, even in the midst of very difficult circumstances. And of course, as I journaled around the page, I made reference to how confusing things were, how anxiety-inducing things were. Remember when we wiped down our groceries because we didn't know exactly how it was spreading so terribly? So, little things like that you can still include and keep it authentic. Remember that if the journaling is your words and your experiences, then it is authentically you, and it's enough. So that was the left-hand side of the page. And also I included that butterfly card because that represented to me a bit of the hibernation feeling, right? A bit of our lockdown began, I think, on March 17th. That's when our governor declared that, everything was closed except this essential. And the kids came home from school. It was supposed to be for 2 weeks. And they were home for 2 years. So it was a pretty drastic change in life there. But that's okay. We've made it through here. And now I feel really proud of having waited to document it. And I know there are lots of people who documented as it was happening, and I think that's wonderful. I chose to just take a little bit of time, 2 years almost, and to think about how I wanted to document it and the products that I wanted to use. And I really am happy about how it came together. So there's a photo at the top right hand corner, and it's sort of a collage. What that is I went into Google and I Googled the empty streets from the pandemic, and it pulled those up, and it's just some different views from around the world of how the streets were quiet and empty. And so I took a screenshot of that and then included that here because that was something to me that represented the outside world, that I wanted to include, that didn't, it doesn't make me feel overwhelmed or anything. It's just a photo documentation there. And that's something, remember, that's something that you can do too, is take screenshots of when you Google something and you go into the images tab, you'll see those images, and that's, Google can be a great resource as you work towards documenting this time period. There were a couple of opportunities, the butterfly card and this card right here that I'm completing, just opportunities to include some labels there and create a little bit of space for journaling. And just a couple of things on this photo that I was talking about, ways that we coped. And so the photo of myself was just me continuing to work. And there was a lot of ways that the lockdown actually didn't change working from home for me or my husband. His work was already mostly from home. But what changed was having the kids home from school, definitely. And the internet usage at our home changed a bit. But I did a little bit of tongue-in-cheek there. The dog, we let him out, and then he just decided to lay on the doormat there in the sun, and that was how he coped. And then there's also a photo of my friend Pam there, the 3x4 photo that I sort of borrowed from the internet. And so she was making some funny videos around that time, and that was her way of coping with all of this. And so I included that. And then the photo at the bottom from the garage is, that was our version of eating out. We couldn't go to restaurants anymore. So we took our little chairs and a little round table out there and had dinner out in the driveway. And that way we got to see people and wave at neighbors when they walked by. And we got to be outside for a little while. It was nice weather for a couple of days. And so that was another way that we coped. And then this is one of my favorite cards here. And what I did was, it already had the little color swatches and the numbers 1, 2, and 3. And so I've stamped with the LA Studio alphabet stamp here. I've stamped mask up. And I'm going to stamp wash up and also sanitize for number 3. And then I just wrote a little bit about how this became part of our new normal. Wearing masks, right? Washing our hands. I thought it was kind of interesting to me that who knew we didn't know how to wash our hands properly. Yikes. And there were some people who didn't wash their hands. But that was, that became a new part of our routine, and something that definitely did change and was worthy of documenting, that I feel like I can document without it being upsetting. And it actually kind of turned out really well. I used this lighter gray ink from Memento, And it ended up just looking like they were part of the journal card itself. It's kind of cool how they turned out. Of course, you'll be able to see the full layout, the completed layout, and detailed photos, of course, and product links where I have available on my blog at theresamoxley.com. And I hope you'll stop by and check that out. Also, if you want to learn more about how I am tackling the Project Life documenting from this year for 2022, and if you want to hear from other folks about how they're working on their everyday documentation, I hope you'll join us in the classroom. In My Pocket Collab Life Stories class is now available for pre-order, and we'll be starting class soon, and we want to have you join us, and you can get a deeper look into tackling subjects just like this, and also just how to document every day. You'll get a look at a variety of different voices and different creatives from our industry will be contributing to that class, and I think it's going to be a really fun time. I'm excited about getting back into Project Life. I've taken kind of a break from these albums for the last 2 years, and it's been kind of nice, but it's also calling me back in now that a little of the dust has settled and things don't feel quite as anxious anymore as they did in March of 2020, and that's a good thing. That's a sign of progress, a sign of growth, that I hope that you're starting to feel that as well, even though it's not over yet, but we are adjusting. And so I almost have these layouts, or this layout is almost done, and I'm sort of looking around to see kind of what I can do to further unify the layout. And it looks really good. The colors, of course, pull it together first and foremost. That's always my biggest tool for pulling a layout together. But I decided that I would bring in some alphabets or really some numbers, and add numbers to each of these labels. And so I just grabbed these Jane alphas from Ellie's Studio, and you'll see I'm just going to number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 around the layout, and that sort of helps to bring this together as a whole story. This is what we did when lockdown hit. This is where we laughed and where we kept from crying and how we coped in all the best ways, right? And then once I number all of those, I realized that I kind of didn't journal about my friend Pam's photo here. So I'm going to go back and add that little label and give her a number sticker as well. And make sure that's one last little I to dot and T to cross here. And then one more thing that I wanted to do was just add a little bit of chipboard around the page, and I'll get to that here in just a second. So I had some of these little arrows and hearts from Kingston Crafts. They were also in the Documenter kits in the past couple of months, and they're a little bit darker than that blush color. And it's just another little way of adding a little bit of depth, a little bit of texture. I wanted to point that arrow on the number 2 journal card at the dog, at how he's sort of peeking around Alan there while we're looking at some news stories and things like that. And so then once you add one arrow, you should always add more arrows. So I put a couple more around the page. Just to add a little bit more embellishments and use those products up. So I wanted to say thank you so much for joining me today, for watching. Let me know down below, have you documented this period of time? I'd love to to hear how you've done it, and check out your layouts if you have shared them online. I'll see you back here again soon. Bye-bye.